Right, John Buster Keeton were a little bit earlier than planned, which is down to me.
Yeah.
I had an old friend on last night, an old foe of yours, Big D, Denzel
Yeah,
Brown.
Big Denzel. Yeah,
Yeah,
smashing fella.
I watched the fight. So me and you spoke the other day, and
Yeah,
did actually go and have a I did go and have a look at that, and I could see an absolutely furious Mickey Duff enter the
yeah,
ring, and he was apoplectic. He was grabbing Denzel's head, and you could see he was saying it's a shaving cut. Before, before going to a few things with you, I mean, we
yeah.
briefly spoke the other day about Mickey Duff. I'm not going to ask what I said, but he was definitely a character, and he definitely didn't like you, did he?
Nah, I didn't like me. Yeah, I think it was just because I think Brendan had like sort of introduced me to him as sort of just a journeyman novice and a novice journeyman, which is what Brendan wanted me to be really. And Brendan used to go mad at me sometimes, saying, "What are you doing, you crazy bastard? I'll never get you a fight." You know, because I used to try my hardest, like just go full out. You know what I mean? And I think Mickey Duff matched me, allowed the matches with a few of his fighters, not expecting me to go sort of balls out, but you know
You
that's
actually
how.
beat Prospect, which is some goal, mate.
Yeah, quite a few. It was the only way to get where I wanted to be. I always wanted to win the British title, and obviously no promoter's gonna take a pure novice on and sign him up and give him that chance. So I knew that I had to fight my way to get to that British title. That's all I ever wanted to do, to get to the British title. I used to speak about an old school friend of mine who sadly passed away, Thomas Bradley. We used to speak for hours and hours on end about British title, Central Area title. His brother Nigel, he boxed Shane Ear for the Central Area title. And all I wanted to be when I was young, I wanted to be Nigel. I followed his every move. He was older than us. He turned pro. I just thought he was the bee's knees. And all Nigel used to talk about was the Central Area title, basically. And saying, like, basically the British title was sort of out of reach, if you know what I mean. So that's all I ever wanted to do. I wanted to, like, sort of please Nigel and like please myself really and get that British title.
I mean, to be honest, there's a saying in boxing which is there's a lot of bad professionals out there. There's some shockers. I've seen some all kinds of Eastern Europeans, but there's no bad British. And for me, that is the most prestigious. The FA Cup's the oldest trophy in football, and that beautiful Lonsdale belt. The Marquess of Queensberry rules, which is, he put Oscar Wilde away, which is another story. But Lord Marquess of Queensberry, he had that rule and he set him up, and it's an incredible belt. And you did it, mate. I was talking to Nick Manners the other day, and he said, "You know what? I was so pleased that John, you've become someone, and you were in a gym which we're going to talk about with your Naseem Hamed, your Bomber Grahams, Johnny Nelsons, Ryan Rhodes, Isham Pickerins, Kel Brooks, Kid, just the full lot. And you've become champion yourself. I mean, is it a little bit kind of looking back now? And I mean, I tell you what, you get a lot of mentions in the forthcoming Junior Witter book.
Right, Junior, a good friend of mine. from the minute he walked in gym, we were good friends. You know, smashing, taught me a lot, and we had some great spars, some great times. Fantastic fella. Oh, spent a lot of time with him.
Looking back now, is it a little bit surreal? Are you happy with what you did in boxing, John?
I am, and I'm not. I boxed for that title, that British title, 5 times, and I only managed to win it once. I can't say I've got no regrets. I don't know. I wish I'd have just won it outright, been able to win it outright. I just didn't. You know, it's just not that quite good enough. You know, there were a lot of great fighters when I was boxing. When I boxed for it, Bruce Scott, absolute animal of a fighter. Terry Dunstan, again, absolute. He was like fighter of the year. Got a load of reach on me. Like Mark Hobson, when I boxed Mark Hobson twice, he was like 6'5" to my 6 foot. Really, really good boxer. We're just, you know, they were world class fighters. They all boxed for world titles, you know, and it was a difficult.
Can I just watching? Is that a bad? Is it a bad reception, or is everything all right? Because I'm hearing John all really bad. But is people listening? Can you hear it? Is everything okay?
I can hear you okay. So is it my side? Can you hear me now?
It's very tinny. I don't know whether anyone can hear it clearly, or I mean, so you grew up in Sheffield then? Obviously the gym, which we're going to talk about. So you a Sheffield lad? You grew up in Sheffield?
Yeah, I'm a Sheffield lad. I'm from Woodhouse in Sheffield. I were not same kind of end as Clinton Woods when Clinton were from Mosborough. Well, originally we're from other side of town, Hillsborough way, but as he were growing up, he moved to Mosborough. So my the gym I should have gone to were probably Dennis Hobson's, but I followed Nigel Bradley and Tom Bradley over to Brendan's gym, which were totally other side of town, and it was a pain in the ass to get to. You know, without a car. Back in the days, 2 buses.
I'm not saying though, John. You got into boxing quite late, didn't you?
No. I started when I were about, I don't know, probably 10 or 11. I went to a local gym called Richmond ABC, and I went. My parents didn't want me to box. My parents were totally against it, and they wanted me to play cricket or whatever, you know. But I, as soon when I went to secondary school, and I met Thomas Bradley, young Tommy, R.I.P. bless him. He told me about their Nigel, and we went across to Brendan's on the bus. We're only probably about 13 or 14-year-old. Naz were there, just a little guy, little kid. Ryan Rhodes were there. Errol Graham were the man then. Glenn Rhodes. Johnny Nelson were just coming through. And we used to, like I said, we used to go up 2 buses. And that's where it all started for me, about 13 or 14-year-old. And I kept on going, never boxed amateur. And I didn't box amateur till I was 19. But I've been there, you know, just training all the time. And it like I say, it weren't till I were like old enough to make my own decisions, like because my parents had never let me box. So, like I said, like 19-year-old, I think, 18, 19-year-old. I only had 10 amateur fights.
Junior does talk about the story in the book when, I mean, I'm going to be honest, there's some eyebrow-raising stories, particularly about Naseem Hamed and some of the way his behaviour, his conduct was. But he also talked about a story when he just kept going on and on at you, and you were going to flatten him. And do you remember that?
Yeah, it'd probably never have come to that. It was, as I remember, it was about one of his cars. He used to let me drive his cars. It was really, to be honest, they were good to me. I mean, like I used to service Naz's cars because I was a mechanic. I used to be a mechanic, and I used to look after his cars for him. But when he started getting money, he was getting all these posh cars, and I'm a petrol head. So I used to say, can I take this car for a spin? Can I take that? And he would say, yeah, take keys, because he trusted me. And the argument I can remember, which really got between me and Naz, because we were good friends, was that he'd got a brand new Mitsubishi Evo, never seen one before. And it had a Subaru, a brand new Subaru, probably about 1998, and he let me drive that quite often. And then he got this was about possibly about 98, 99, and this Evo. So I said, can I drive it? And they were like, yeah, of course you can. Of course you can. You can drive any car of mine. And so I turned up to the gym, and he turned up in a Bentley, something like that. So I said, oh, you're not coming Evo today? We're like, nah, man, I've come in Bentley. I've got business. So I was like, yeah, no worries. So this went on for about 3 days. They were promising me to drive this Evo, and he never turned up in it. So on this particular day, he was talking to somebody, and I went up behind him and sort of grabbed him in headlock, playing. And I went, where's that Evo? I went, like, I want to drive that Evo. Where's that Evo? And he like sort of shrugged me off, like spun round on me, and he went, like, don't you ever talk to me like that. He went, I'm WBC world champion. Don't ever talk to me like that. You know what I mean? And I'm like, Naz, I was joking. He's going, well, I've shown some respect. Show some respect to me. I went, Naz, stop it. I went, I've known you since you were a baby. I went, stop talking to me like that. I said, I was joking. And he's like, you don't joke with me. Don't joke with me. You know what I mean? And I went, right, fuck you. I said, that's it. We're done. I went, our friendship's done. And that was it. I mean, he bought me a Porsche. I took the Porsche out, and I was skint at the time, absolutely skint. I'd got about, 30 quid left to last me month. And I'd used quite a bit of petrol in this Porsche. So embarrassing. I put in £20 in, and I took him to the Porsche bank, and I went, Naz, I'm so sorry. He went, oh, you haven't crashed it, have you? I went, no. I says, I've only been able to put you £20 with a juice in. So he just started laughing out loud, and he pulled me over to the window when he lived on Courtworth Road. Pulled me over to the window on his conservatory and pointed to grass outside. And he said, look what's outside. So I was like looking, and they were like £20 note ripped in half. They were only half for it. So he went, look at that. So he went, that's £20. So I went, well, it's off. I went, what's it doing outside? I went, get it. He went, I ripped it up. I chucked it out the window. I lost a bet as playing pool with Ali, his brother, who's passed away, bless him. And Ali beat me, so I ripped his £20 up. He says, money don't mean nothing to me. He went, so you putting £20 in my car don't mean nothing. I went, Naz, I'm skint. I've put you that in. I had a goodwill. you know, I'm embarrassed. So he would just it basically laughed me out of his house. And that were another thing. I started losing respect for him in so many ways.
Yeah, I mean, what comes across in the book, you know, a lot of the things. I mean, Junior said he met him at like Crystal Palace, and he was a fun kid then. Where at when the money come in and the Rolexes and sponsored by Adidas, he just changed into a different character, and his jokes weren't funny anymore. If he picked on someone all day, he'd bully them all day.
Yeah, he would definitely. I mean, like I can remember stood with him in Woodhouse, where I'm from. There were me, Thomas Bradley, and Naz, and we were stood, and we could hear Bruce Springsteen. He were playing at Bramhall Lane. So that was 1988, and Naz had got come across the Woodhouse on bus. Totally different guy. Such a nice guy. We looked after him. He were a brilliant friend. And to what you wouldn't recognise him then, to when all the money started coming and he started, you know, turning on his friends. It was sad. It was sad. I've always liked Naz, but towards the end, it turned into a different person.
Yeah. So, I mean, I'm going to be honest. So I've got a book, Mickey Duff, Junior Witter, Brian Clough, and I am really kind of flirting with the idea. Somewhere along the line, I would love to do a book on Brendan Ingle. Yeah. God rest him. Now, I spoke to him probably about a year, 18 months before he died, but I was very well aware that he was very ill. How much of a special person was Brendan, John?
Oh, absolutely special. I mean, my own dad died 5 years ago tomorrow, so it's the 5th anniversary of his death tomorrow, and I was very, very close to my dad, very close to him. But Brendan came, you know, a close second. I could phone him at any time. He was absolute diamond. Absolutely. About life, about anything, you could go to Brendan and talk to him. And I think what Naz did to him were absolutely scandalous, because he taught us all along. You know, when Naz were there, he taught us what could happen in boxing, and the things, what, you know, the spiteful things, what fighters did, and they take all your time and then go and stab you in back. And Naz knew all this and then just went and did it anyway. I don't think it were. I just don't know what it were. It were as if money hypnotized Naz, because I don't think he is really, you know, like he was showing. Yeah. I think it were. I just don't know. Not nice to see or be around. No.
I mean, so obviously you were very close to him. Why did he? 28, that was it, and he was finished. You know, and he says, I'd been training since I was a 7-year-old kid. He hugely underachieved, in my opinion, and a lot of other people's. Where I spoke to Colin Hart the other week, and he said he wasn't even the best featherweight Great Britain have ever had. You know, I mean, what's your opinion on him and seeing him in the gym? What was he like to train alongside?
Yeah, I disagree with Colin there. I think he was definitely the best featherweight. The power, I think the power that Naz had, it's unexplainable. It punched like a super middleweight, like a light heavyweight. That was the power he had. I mean, like, I could take a punch, I could hold a punch, and you know, Naz gave me a concussion. He was first to bust my nose. Naz could really bang, you know, proper bang, and his hands couldn't take it. You know, in the hands, his hands were smashed to bits. You know, the actual power that he put down. You know, his legs were massive. But I don't know. I think.
Yeah.
I think
I've
if he'd
watched
have
a lot
listened,
of
yeah, if he'd have listened and stayed with Brendan, you know, I think he'd have beat Barrera. But he just wouldn't listen. He wanted to train his own way. He wanted to do what he wanted to do. You know, what can you say? Brendan knew it was going to happen. He always said that. So
I mean, obviously, Naz had his last fight with the Ingles on Halloween back in the '98. So he fought 99. He fought Paul Ingle. He fought Barrera 2001. Mario Calvo 2002. So when Naz finally lost, was there a little bit of like satisfaction in the Ingle within yous, a lot of yous all, because obviously you'd gone by then?
It gutted me, to be honest. It gutted me. The whole thing. It was just like, man, we knew that was going to happen. You know, we just knew it was going to happen. We could see it, and it's a sad thing. It was a sad thing. He's from Sheffield. You know, you grew up with him, so it's not. There were no like fun in watching him get beat or enjoyment out of watching him get beat. And still in. When people say, you look on any boxing forum and people start slagging him, saying, yeah, he got beat by a proper fighter. They didn't know the real Naz. That Naz beat himself. You know, if he'd have listened, stopped with Brendan, done everything he was told, he'd have beat Barrera. Like, I think we all know that. But it just didn't want to know. It didn't want to know. It was arrogant and bombastic towards a lot of people, including Brendan. Didn't want to listen to Brendan. He wanted to be like, I don't know. I just don't know what he had in his head. He wanted to be he wanted to be the man, you know.
Yeah. So I'm going to ask you a couple of questions, right? I just want one name answers. So who was the best you ever seen in the Ingle gym to train with alongside? Who was the one that really blew you away?
God said Johnny Nelson.
Right. Who was the hardest you ever? Who was the fighter in the Ingle that you hated sparring with?
I love sparring with anybody.
There must have been one where you just were like, oh, not you again.
Nah, honestly. No, I loved it. The harder the better. The harder the better. The harder the better. I loved it.
So you had a long, illustrious career. As I said, there's a champion after your name, which is unbelievable credit. Who was the hardest you ever were hit in sparring then?
The hardest I've ever been hit was Bruce Scott. He put me in hospital every time I boxed him. I boxed him 3 times and he put me in hospital every time. I think that pound for pound, hardest hitter from Ingle Gym was Naz and a guy called Samo Mason. John Thaxton could whack. Yeah. Nigel Bradley. Some powerful guys, you know. But Bruce Scott, when he hit you, it was different. Honestly, it would just shake you to your boots. Like, broke my eye socket. Like, put me in hospital. It wrecked all my inner ear. You know, in my ears, it done all that. I've got a condition called BPV, benign positional vertigo, which comes on and off. That's down. Sure, that's down to the first time Bruce Scott put me in hospital. because it wrecked on me and hit me that hard. So,
I mean, so you lived the life of a fighter, John. I mean, today, you know, you're boxing. You've been finished now with boxing, probably, I don't know, maybe 15 years or whatever. But I mean, is there? Sorry.
2009, I retired.
Yeah, 15 years.
Yeah.
So you're 15 years old. Is there anything that still affects you these days? Broken nose, eye sockets, anything?
I still get that that like vertigo, that BPV. My hands and my elbows just kill all the time. They just ache all the time. I can't run anymore. My legs are knackered. Probably from just too much like bad running, if you know what I mean. Not running in good form, probably. I don't know. Oh, I love it.
I mean, to be honest, I've spoken to all your gym mates, you know, your Golden Boy Sids, your Amir Khans, so obviously Junior Witter, just give me all the numbers. So I've got Junior's book. I'm going to give you a copy. And as I said, you're a name which is mentioned throughout the book. It speaks of you with great love, Junior. I don't think there'll ever be a time where the Ingle gym is like that again. You know, I mean, you had the who's who. I know Billy Joe Saunders come afterwards, and you Willie Hutchinsons, and you know, your Liam Williams and all this. But back in the day, you know, there's even stories that not a lot of people are aware of. Amir Khan went to Brendan and wanted to train him, and he had his hand broken by Naz, and Brendan was more for the grassroots boxers, wasn't he?
Yeah, Brendan would take anybody. The door was open to anybody. We had all sorts of fighters coming through. It was just a tremendous place to be. Naz brought it. Where I see it, where Naz, it was like a tsunami with Naz. All the publicity around Naz, the TV and everything. I jumped on that wave, and it sort of carried everybody through. Even more so than Errol Graham. I mean, you can't forget Brian Anderson, Errol Graham, Glenn Rhodes. You know, even further back, some big names. But Naz were the one for me who brought it all through. But even though we had that superstar Naz in the gym, you get kids walking in, you know, waifs and strays walking in, and Brendan had spent time with him. It don't happen anymore. There's just not the time, or it's just the era's not the same. Life's not the same. You know, it's Dominic's a different character to what Brendan were. Dominic's a smashing bloke, tons of knowledge, but he hasn't got what Brendan had. He's got, in some ways, he's got more knowledge than what Brendan had, with nutrition and different things. But Brendan sort of, I don't know, he was like a good Samaritan, if you know what I mean. It's hard to explain, but
I mean, he was a guy who took no fools, suffered fools gladly. Brendan, you know, people think, you know, this lovable Irish man and all that, but he fought as a pro. He was a middleweight in the 60s in the 70s when, you know, it was a different sport then, and Brendan could actually really have a fight himself, couldn't he?
Definitely. You didn't mess about. Brendan weren't one to mess with, but you know, he educated you in a different way. I mean, Dominic can have a fight. Dominic can really have a fight. I think John can, young John. You know, they all can look after themselves. But Brendan, I've seen Brendan spar when he was old, I seen him spar Naz and Ryan Rhodes both at the same time and gave him a load of trouble. And he sparred him for about, I don't know, like 8 rounds or something like that. He come in, Jimmy, right, I've had enough of you two bastards. And he got this big hairy yellow jumper on. I don't know if it's in juniors, but really itchy yellow jumper. And I was like, Brendan, why are you sparring in that? He says, watch and learn. So he'd grab hold of him and rub the face in this like yellow itchy jumper, this mohair jumper. It you know, it made all like goosebumps come out on you, you know, just watching him wear that and like to rub it in your face and rub it down your neck, like, and he give him hell. But Brendan paid for that, you know, big time. Ended up in an hot bath. Alma went mad at him, you know, telling him what you're doing, sparring with young lads, like. So.
Yeah, I mean, obviously Brendan was the governor, but Alma, Mrs. Ingle, sadly, a couple of years, she was the boss over Brendan, wasn't she?
Definitely. He weren't allowed to swear at him, you know, but obviously if there were any music on, like rap music, and it had swearing in, Alma would like storm across the stereo and turn it down, like turn it off. We're not having this on in this gym. And like Brendan would be like, who's swearing? You know, don't swear, Alma's here. And she'd come across and like basically have to drag him by his ear to go and have his tea. He'd been in gym all afternoon, you know. But Alma were a strong character. Dominic's more like Alma. That's where I see it. Dominic's more like Alma. John were probably more like Brendan and young Brendan.
I mean, to be honest, the gym was just over the years littered with champions of all kind. What Junior said was, you know, he'd say, right lads, have you got half an hour? And so half an hour, he'd have British champions, Commonwealth, European, world champions, and he'd say, right, we're going to cut the Priest's Garden up the road, and he'd have like superstars of world boxing out working for hours, and Brendan was like his half an hour and meant 4 hours of working for nothing, and he really humbled people, didn't he?
Yeah, he did. And that was a good thing about him. He could talk you around. I mean, if you said to somebody, right, put your stuff down, you're not training, you're gonna come and help me, and we're gonna cut this. You'd be like, fuck off, you know what I mean? But Brendan were like, he got a way of doing it. You know, I still find myself doing it now. I'll go out and pick litter up, like locally, you know. And I think of Brendan all the time. And he got like Herbie Hyde, who absolute animal of a fighter, fantastic WBO heavyweight champion, and he'd have Herbie Hyde doing it, Johnny Nelson, you know, everybody. I learned from early on, sort of, when Brendan were asking for one of his favours that could end up like costing you all night, if you know what I mean. Because he'd used to say, "You all right, Keeton?" And I'd be like, "Yes, Brendan." He'd say, "Is your car running okay?" And I'd say, like, at first I'd be like, yeah, Brendan, are you doing anything tonight? I'd be like, no, Brendan, I'm, you know. And he said, great, you can run me up to Leeds, you know. Like, after a while, you'd say, you all right, Keto? And he'd say, yeah, Brendan, is your car running all right? Got a bit of a problem? No problem. You know what I mean? So you'd like sort of make a imaginary problem up, or she'd end up like running him to Leeds or to, I don't know, to a dinner show somewhere and end up signing corner with a call. But it were all good experience. But that's how you know what?
I've spoken to so many people, and what I've observed myself is what Brendan Ingle did for the boxers at Sheffield was a smidgen to what he actually did for the community, you know. And I'm not surprised that since he's gone, there's a Brendan Ingle way. he actually did so much for like nothing to do with boxing. It was just the whole of the Sheffield people, and he was like a god, wasn't he? And everyone loved him.
Fantastic. I mean, I've always since from school I worked for BT, like, which is now Open Reach, and I can remember going into work. I was training at gym, but I went into work and I could hear two managers having a laugh to each other and saying, we've had that Brendan Ingle on phone saying he wants to borrow what we call the pole unit for day, and he wants to plant a tree all the way into town from Winkerbank every couple of meters. And Brendan just thought, that'd be a good thing to do, like to plant a tree, which would be absolutely fantastic idea. But the logistics of it and actually getting permission off council to plant trees all the way into town were another story. And he just rang BT up, had the idea of borrowing a pole unit and doing it himself, like, and that's the type of guy he were. He didn't see the problems. He wanted to get around the problems, around the red tape, wanted to help anybody, But that's
John, can I ask how did he get so mature? I've spoke to so many people, and Nick Manners has told me he shouldn't pick her, and I've spoke to so many people over the years, and he was just this old wise, like, Obi-Wan Kenobi, was he ever a daft young lad himself? And he had all these little jobs, didn't he? He was always like a bit of a cobbler, and he'd make shoes and all this, but he just seemed to always be able to fix people's problems. That's what the people have told me.
Brendan used to sit back and watch. He was a good watcher, and that's what made him a good trainer, because he could see things in people what nobody else could see. So in life, he'd watch life happening and just basically, absorb it all, and then look at what causes problems. Drink. It were badly against drink. I always drunk. That was my problem. My poison is alcohol, and he hated that. And he tried to get me off alcohol so many times. He hated smoking. He hated drugs. He hated people running around with more than one woman. So he liked to live life squeaky clean, because he always said if you're not living your life squeaky clean, there's going to be problems, and you don't need problems in life. It would, if you listen to him, that's how you should live, basically. So fascinating to listen to.
And obviously now boxing, it was all a dream. You're a Sheffield lad. Do you ever go past the gym sometimes and you reminisce and you think, wow, do you still get a bit emotional? Do you still think of Brendan? And
yeah, big time. Yeah, a lot. Yeah. Whenever I go past, like I sometimes pop in to see Dominic. I'm still good friends with Dominic. Just walking in the gym, you get that buzz, you get that like aura around you. You can smell it. All my friends who I've ever met through that, I still keep in touch with them. Like Killer Khan, he's a good friend of mine. Johnny Nelson, I don't speak to them often, but I know they're always there. Junior Witter, absolute diamonds they are. Even far away, I still speak to. There was a guy come from Jamaica. I was only speaking to him a few days ago. This is another problem that I picked up. Well, when I start thinking too much, my brain switches off. My brain switches. But everybody who I've ever met in that gym, you know, I know that I could go to them, ask them advice, or, you know, they'd be there for me. Fantastic.
Yeah. The biggest story, everyone has said, so it's not my opinion. Brendan said it. Everyone is Johnny Nelson. He went from being an absolute, you know, his amateur record was something like 1-3, lost 10. He lost his first couple. He lost his first 3 as a pro, and his 4th fight, he said, "If I lose this, I'm jacking in." And then he ended up becoming the longest reigning cruiserweight champion. I think him and Mario Hook. You know, and Johnny Nelson is like.
Yeah, there were a bit of needle between Hook and Johnny in the end, but I think Johnny had done him. Johnny is the gym. He is the success story. That is what Brendan, you know, did more than Nas. Nas were meant to win. Johnny were never meant to win. You know, I were never meant to win. I were never meant to win a title. Just were never meant to happen. He's. You're going to win, lose, draw, and get robbed. That's what Brendan told us.
I mean, I was talking to Nick Manners the other day about it, and he said, "You know what?" He said, "I was over the moon when Buster won his British." I mean, that is a, you know, back in your day there was an area title. I don't think the English title was probably just coming in then, but British title is just. And there's so many fighters, you know, who've never won a British title. David Hayes never had one. Eubank Senior's never had one. And you know what? It's not for the want of trying. A British title is like you're a somebody.
That's it. One of my favourite Sheffield fighters is Clinton Woods. Clinton Woods, absolute diamond. He went from the area title, the British title, Commonwealth, European, world title. Not many people do that. Not many people. Absolute legend in my eyes, Clinton Woods. Fantastic. And he did it how it should be done. You know, I've never boxed for the central area. And I think I got the chance to box for the British like very early on in my career, and I was out of my depth, and I committed boxing suicide, if that makes sense. As soon as I got in the ring, I knew, you know, this is a bit too much for me, this. And it were against a guy called Terry Dunstan, who were unbeaten. I committed suicide, boxing suicide. I just ran at him and give him everything I could in a few seconds, and ended up on my ass, you know. Instead of that's how I had to do it. That's how I had to do it. In truth be told, I committed boxing suicide. That's all I could do.
So looking back now, obviously it's all been and gone. Hindsight's a wonderful thing. You know, I often remind Junior Witter that he's 50. You know, he's pipe and slippers, and he just needs to whip it, and he's a proper Yorkshire granddad and that. And you know, he hates that, to be honest. And I said, look, you know, and Junior completed the sport: British, Commonwealth, European, Intercontinental, and World. You won a British title. It's more than most of us could dream about. You know, it's something. There's the unbelievable amount of fighters have been in the Ingle gym. Some never done anything. You know, this Isham Pickering, Darren Sutherland, God rest him, Del Bryan, obviously there's very, very famous ones, but there's a lot people would, for instance, Paul Sykes. So when he got out in 77, he actually went to try and get in with Brendan first, and Brendan was like, nah, no chance. So I mean, it's a gym that everyone wanted a connection with, and you did it. And you know, listen, boxing's like, it's the hardest sport in the world. It's certainly the hardest thing I've ever done. But do you know what? When you were a champion, you're British champion, and there's so many champions out of that Ingle gym. Unbelievable, from all different levels, and it is sad. I think, you know, in the greatest respect, I think that's gone now. I just don't see that. You know, Sheffield is an unbelievable little city for boxing. Liverpool is, Manchester is, but then the cities that are massive, but they aren't. Leeds is coming into it a little bit now. Newcastle's been very, very poor. Middlesbrough's not really doing anything, and Sheffield is. Can't see, and maybe you might know difference, but I just can't see any glory days coming to Sheffield anymore.
Well, we've got Dalton Smith, who's, I think he's going to be very special. Dalton, the sort of the talent has moved on, in my eyes, to through even the amateurs, and coming up, you've got Grant Smith's gym. I think it's a place at Darnell, but he's got some great fighters. Obviously, Glenn's had Tommy Frank and Sam Sheedy, but he tends to stop at domestic level, whereas I think Dalton, and I think Dalton's going to come through. You know, I think he's going to have world honours. I think he's going to. I mean, he's already won British title. I think he's going to fly. You know.
So, a book which I've got, it's going to be my 23rd book. It's going to be out before the Junior Winter one. You'll get that one. You'll get a Mickey Duff one. But you're in this. It's called Front. Got to get through this. Nick Manners. For me, Nick epitomises everything a boxer should be. He's was big, black guy, scary, attitude, and all that. But you knew him years ago. I mean, you were there actually when he flattened Paul Sykes, weren't you?
Yeah. It was scary. Now I seen him knock the guy out in the ring, and Paul Sykes be shouting at him from ringside, and Nick was just fearless, just walked up and just put his hands up to put his hand up to his mouth and went, "Shh, be quiet." You know,
I mean, Nick was not a bad fighter himself, was he?
Oh, fantastic! Got a right shot on him. He could put him away. Nick, fantastic kid. Smashing blow. I never knew. Like Brendan always told me about Nick Manners and about Denzel Brown, and he went, "Don't you ever let them. Don't you let them intimidate you." He says, "Go straight up to them, look them bang in the eyes, and shake their hands." And like knowing Nick now, you know what I mean? It's just a smashing blow, but it's what Brendan told me to do. That's how I wear. And it's the same way Denzel Brown, when I boxed Denzel Brown, he went, "Don't you let him try and intimidate you, because that's what he'll try and do." He went, "Don't let him try and intimidate you." And I'm thinking, it's all right you saying that, but I'm stood in front of this guy, you know what I mean? And I got a lot of respect for him, and it was a difficult thing to do, sort of throw all that respect out the window and just basically, you know, go hell for leather at these guys. But I'm glad I never fought Nick. He had some great fights. He did. He did some good sparring with Carl Zaki. I think him and a nice guy, one of my other friends, Tony Boothel, were one of Brendan's Brendan's stable. I learned a lot off Tony. I actually boxed Tony. But I think Nick and Tony have got some needle, you know what I mean? I don't think they get on. I'm not sure that they don't get on, but with stories I've heard.
Yeah. I mean, so obviously you did so many fights and you were in prize fighter and all that, but so what does John Buster Keeton do now then?
I work just work for Open Reach like I've always done. 35 years I've been there. I work permanent nights now. I'm part of a little gang what do specialised cabling, and we do something called civils avoidance, which we try and get away with. We aren't working with traffic lights, so we do stuff in middle of night, and take like sort of educated risks. Obviously, we do it with a risk assessment and do it all safely, but he's sort of trying to get away with spending money on traffic lights and got good experience. So that's basically all I do. And I a guy who sort of rescued my soul when I retired from boxing, because I went downhill fast, a guy called Terry Johnson, and he owns a place called Sheffield Dragons at Answorth, and he's been highly successful. He's had like crews on Britain's Got Talent. He's done his gym out. He does kickboxing, all kinds of swords, martial arts, everything, dancing. He's fantastic geezer, and he took me under his wing when I retired from boxing, and sort of got me coaching, doing little bits of coaching. And what I do is I don't sort of coach boxers in a way to get them up to fighting. We do like bag circuits, and there's a good array of people, from really young people with autism, right through to old people. And I try and make it fun, and we have a good laugh, and try and make it a fun session, doing a bag circuits and stuff like that. Not serious, and it's all good fun. But it's Terry Johnson who's who got me there and kept me interested. He's a smashing ball.
Right. Obviously, when you retired, John, did you kind of turn to alcohol?
I've always had a problem with alcohol. Always. It's a very long story. But I drank all the way through my boxing career, all the way through, even on title fights. The only one that I didn't drink for was the Terry Dunstan British title fight. But believe me, I drank for every other title fight, and I never had a problem with stamina. It's a bad thing for me, drink. I've had to rein it in many times. I don't know. Sometimes you could call it functioning alcoholic. Really, even when I was boxing, my highest, I'd outlast anybody. And I might have had 4 or 5 pints the night before. That's just how I were. And if I didn't drink, my mind, I suppose you could call it a weak mind, but my mind had played tricks on me and burst my own bubble. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I mean, are you drinking much now then, or?
Yeah. Well, the night helps, because I can't drink at night, obviously, because I'm working. But like, I'm still coming in the morning, and I might have 2 or 3 cans in the morning, which people might say, well, that's not a lot of drink, but obviously it is. It's caused problems between me and my partner, Kerry. She stood by me with everything, and I do try for Kerry and myself to pack it in. I did 100 days last year. I started in January and did 100 days without alcohol, and I'll be honest with you, it nearly killed me. Dominic would give me lots of support through it, like diet tips and everything. I said, Dominic, I cannot do this anymore. He's killing me. I need to have, you know, and I keep it reined in. I keep it reined in. I mean, I'm not like I don't stagger about round back of shops, or, you know, I don't drink like spirits through day or night. It's just I need. I'll be honest with you, I need a drink. Which people say, well, if you need a drink, it's an alcohol. You're an alcoholic. So like 2 or 3 drinks, and like just it switches that brain off, you know. Because I'll sit there and think, I could have done this in this fight, I could have done that in that fight, and I start beating myself up. Or I might worry about, you know, stupid little things, and they'll just worry me. I've got car to do. I've got car to service next week. Car needs servicing out. Insurance is due. And I find that if I have a couple of drinks, there'll be experts watching this, maybe saying, well, you need to do this, you need to do that. At 50-year-old, I've been drinking now since I was like about 11, 12-year-old. You know, my parents.
Sorry, John, you gone off there.
I'm back. Can you hear me? I can't see you now. I can't see you. Can you hear me? I don't know what's happened.
Is that better, John?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. Sorry for
that, mate. Wi-Fi. I mean, I'm going to be honest. So I'm sat listening. I give up alcohol for 7 months last year, right. and it's not the big. It's not. I used to think like you have to drink to enjoy yourself and that. And I mean, obviously with my writing now, I have a full-time job. But when I come in, I know if I have half a hangover, I don't want to do any writing. Right. So, you know, that's my thing. I've got an addictive personality, and I've kind of got addicted to something else. Maybe, you know, I can't imagine what it'd be like to box at such a high level, and then all of a sudden that is gone. Your Mikael Brook is struggled. You know, there's a lot of fighters really, really struggle.
Yeah, definitely. I went downhill very fast. Soon as I packed him, it was just horrible. Knowing that I'd never fight again, you know. But I mean, it like that didn't make the drinking worse. I mean, my drinking's always been a problem, if you know what I mean. I never get hangover. Never get hangover ever. I could drink whatever and then train next morning.
That's incredible. But so many fighters. I mean, Junior talks about. He said he went sparring once, and he said he was on camp with Jason Booth, and he said, when I realised he was a serious alcoholic, so he trained all day, sit in the pub all night, get hammered, and train the next day. I mean, another guy, Andy Flute, was the same. It's incredible. You know, you've obviously this natural fitness, but it's probably not normal.
No. I always felt that it made me stronger. Definitely stronger mentally as well, because it just it switched all the problems off. My mind will kill me if you know what I mean. my
Yeah.
mind. If my thoughts, you know, it's just, I don't know.
So you sound like you fell out of love with boxing now.
When I look at some of the fights, like this Chris Billiam Smith, new WBO cruiserweight, and I look at it and it really upsets me, you know. It really upsets me thinking, you know, these guys are earning this much money, and I hardly earned anything, you know. 5 British title fights. I never got what I call buying house money. You know, they're getting house money, if you know what I mean. They're able to buy their own houses. You know, with that money, no chance. I want WBF world title, which is nothing. It's not even a world title, but you know, when you're talking like $3,000 for that fight, people say 3,000 quid. And I say, yeah. I says, it's not really a world title. I says, but nowadays, like if somebody were boxing for a nondescript world title, they'd be like 20, 30 grand. It's when I listen to some of the figures, what they're getting, it does make me sick. And you know, the quality of the fights, you know, and they've got no heart and they get stopped straight away, and it's just not the same. It's not the same for me.
So I mean, you're working in that, but what's your main focus now then? And because I mean, if there's anyone watching this, John, that kind of wants to reach out to you, I'm going to put your links in the bio after this, as I always do. I know you're on Facebook. Is that okay? Can people reach out to you?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, of course.
And so what's your plan? What's your vice these days? I mean, what's that you look forward to?
I look forward to spending time with my partner and my son. My son's 22 now. He's a petrol lad. He's into all kinds of things, surfing. He's going skiing. So I look forward to spending time with my son every weekend. And my partner Kerry, we've renovated our house, put a big extension on it. So it's like sort of things like that motivate me these days. I'm not really. A couple of years ago, I'd say 2017, I met a guy. I got friends with a guy called Russ. Russ Gale. He was a big, young guy, big bodybuilder, and he taught me a lot, you know, about business and stuff like that. For a young kid, he's got loads of houses. He's, you know, really settled. He knows what he's doing with money and business, and at the same time, he wanted to be a boxer. So we sort of gelled because I helped him, you know, along his journey with boxing. And he helped me with the bodybuilding and one thing and another. And I got really fit again, put a load of size on. And I was enjoying, you know, the bodybuilding and everything. Which I was just getting too many injuries. And ironically, he got too many injuries. Making the transition to boxing, so he never made it boxing wise, and I couldn't do it anymore with the bodybuilding because my shoulders and everything were knackered. So we sort of that sort of ended.
Yeah, I mean, do you know what? As I said, I've spoken to literally everyone regarding that Ingle industry kind of era, if you like, and everyone has an amazing word to say about you. 2 fighters which are mentioned in the book a lot, yourself and John Thaxton. You know, so as I said, I'll make sure you get their books, John. It's been an absolute pleasure, mate. If anyone's watching this wants to get in touch with John, I'm going to put his Facebook link. Give him a message. He's very approachable, very friendly. John, it's been an absolute pleasure, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, and thank you, Junior. Thanks a lot. Cheers. Bye.